Hi, welcome back to the Joy of Tennis Teaching. My name is Dan Obashan, and I want to thank you all for tuning in. Today we're going to cover two items that were sent to me with questions from some of our viewers, which is what I asked for in our last video. So thank you very much, viewers. First, from Dave Kensler in San Diego, he had a question about enthusiasm. When I talk about enthusiasm, do I mean rah-rah and yelling and shouting and screaming? What if that's not your personality? I say that's not really the definition of enthusiasm. Enthusiasm means enjoyment to me. So my question to you, maybe you're not a very loud person, maybe you're not a jump up and down rah-rah guy, but how do you show excitement when you're happy with something? That's the secret to showing your student enthusiasm. I believe that the two biggest mistakes that coaches make are fake enthusiasm. We've all seen this. The pro feeds a ball and says, good shot, good shot, good shot, no matter what the student is doing. Students pick up on that right away. Fake enthusiasm. Or maybe you're doing rah-rah, oh, you're doing so great, and the student knows they're not doing so great. So you've got to be real, you've got to be honest with your student. Show them what you mean, but show them that you're happy with the progress they're making. I think coaches focus too much on the negative. You need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this. Instead, celebrate what they're doing right. I know that I'm the most enthusiastic when I'm communicating to my students how well they're doing. That's the secret. So enthusiasm, try to be honest, don't be fake, but celebrate what the student is doing well. Build on it. Take what they're doing right and add to it rather than trying to always focus on what the student is doing wrong. Our second item for today comes from Ivan in the Netherlands. Thanks, Ivan. And Ivan actually called this in to me. He was talking about how crazy his schedule is. Ivan is working from early in the morning, sometimes till almost midnight. How do you avoid burnout? Well, Ivan's schedule is kind of crazy, but he's also one of the strongest pros I've ever met. But here's what I think happens with burnout. Burnout comes from three things: overwork, lack of enjoyment, and unrealistic expectations. When we talk about overwork, every pro is different. When I was a young teaching pro in Hawaii in the 70s, I could teach 8, 9, 10 hours in a day, and I felt great. I loved it. Right before I got ill, I was down to I would teach 2 hours in the morning, rest, and teach 2 hours late in the day, and that was it. That was max at age 63 that I could do. So understand your body, understand your energy levels, and understand the needs of your job. Maybe you have to work it out with your boss as far as what's your maximum schedule that you can handle. And you should try to understand that going into your job. Lack of enjoyment. I think if you're going to last in the tennis pro profession, you've got to really enjoy what you're doing. But even as much as I've loved it, and I don't know anybody who loved teaching tennis more than I have in the last 50 years, there were times where it was hard. You know, it was tiring. The students were difficult. My boss was difficult. The weather was too hot or too cold, or the money wasn't right. There can be all kinds of things that can affect your enjoyment. But what you have to really understand, and it goes back to those questions that I asked in the second video, is what do you get out of being a tennis pro? I loved watching people improve. And so that's what I got at. So even during the most difficult times, if I could focus on the student's improvement, it would carry me through those times where I might burn out. But I know a lot of the pros who have burnt out that I've talked that have left the tennis teaching industry. They said they just couldn't take it anymore. They just hated XYZ part of the job. So understand what you enjoy and what you don't like about the job and see what you can do to manage that. finally, the last one on burnout is unrealistic expectations. The great player, coach, psychologist, Alan Fox taught me an amazing concept. He taught me this phrase that I hope you'll remember, because you can use it in teaching your students and you can use it for yourself. Anytime you get frustrated, you want to understand, what is frustration? Well, here's the quote from Alan Fox. Frustration is the gap between your expectation and the reality of the situation. So what were your expectations when you became a tennis pro? I remember talking to a tennis pro once who was coming to work in a company that had many, many resorts, and he wanted to know how long he got off at Christmas. And I was like, what, are you crazy? Christmas is one of our busiest times. We all work at Christmas. I used to leave the PBI headquarters to go down to the Caribbean to help out with the Christmas holiday rush. So this pro's expectations were he would get holidays off. I had to explain to him that in our company, that was a very unrealistic expectation. So if you're burning out on your current job, ask yourself, what were my expectations for this job, and what was the reality of this job? So that's it for today. I think that burnout and enthusiasm are tied together in some way. That's why I combined the two questions. Because if you're enthusiastic, you can't burn out. But where does that enthusiasm come from? It comes from a genuine interest in the students. So go out there and keep having fun. This is the joy of tennis teaching, signing off for this week. Thanks very much. I look forward to reading your comments and more questions. Give your 50%. I need more questions.